Hey everyone. Um, Wanted to talk about a couple very special knives from Yakutia, the Republic of Sakha in Siberia, Russia, um, made by the same smith. His name is Semen Tretiak, and he is a village smith that lives out in the countryside and does everything by hand. Very much from the ground up, from scratch. His work is both at the same time very advanced and awesome at this, while being a little kind of rugged and very traditional. But anyway, so let me jump in and talk about the two knives here. One that I got for myself from him, and then one that I got recently to put up in my Etsy stores for people to buy. I have two of these actually. I'm just going to show off one. So anyway, what makes these guys so special? On the outside, they're kind of like every other standard Yakut knife. This one came with a leather belt loop, and I put a little braided horsehair loop on it that I got from a store over there. And hopefully see it here, just epoxied this part over here, so works really well. This one is a thin strand, what is it, double black and white. A little different from the more standard kind of this flat type that they do with multiple strands in there. But anyway, I like these, and I can buy more of these pretty cheap from these guys when I order knives from them, so I can put them on other things as I've been doing. But anyway, so the knife itself has a leather sheath, pretty standard. There's a wooden insert for the blade there, and birch burl handle. He likes to make them kind of in the traditional village style, little rough, unfinished-ish. Not really unfinished, just not as oiled and polished as a lot of the stuff that you get elsewhere these days. Yeah, you can always sand down the handle just a little bit and cover it in some more oil. Let it sit for a while. Feels great now. This one's light. The other one you'll see is a little more polished on the dark soaked wood. Anyway, so the size and the shape of this is pretty standard. So about 13 centimeter, what is that, just over 5 inches long blade. Similar sized handle, right? Kind of has a little bit, not really an egg shape. This one's a little more squared off than others sometimes. Fits my hand really well, but again, of course, they make all kinds of variations. Mountain sheep horn bolster here with a bunch of carvings that he does that are kind of fun. Okay. The blade shape is pretty standard, so this one's quite flat. There's a little bit of convexing towards the edge here, but like most knives actually made in Yakutia, it is flat, basically flat on both sides and triangular in cross section without that crazy lens that people like putting on them. It is asymmetric still, so this side is flat and this side comes up to it at an angle, right, and a little bit of a curve towards the end. So kind of like more of a Japanese kiridashi or something like that. The fuller on these guys is long and narrow, right? No hammers. It's clean. I guess it is hammered. It's just cleaned up. No hammering marks. It's not wide. So what else can we talk about here? Oh yes, the blade shape from the back. If you look at it, looks more like a standard knife, right? Not that asymmetrical shape that has been more associated with these. You see this on the ones made in Yakutia usually, these days at least. What else? There's maybe a little bit of a drop point to the blade on this one. Makes different variations. Again, every blade is unique, obviously. But, okay, so, yeah, the sheath has a wooden insert, kind of hard to show in this light. Anyway, it's in there. I put a little bit of epoxy around the edges here too, but you'll see the other sheath made for this new one is much nicer, actually. What really makes these special, though, is the fact that these are made entirely from scratch. And what I mean is the blade is made out of steel that the maker produced himself. What they do is they literally go out on the river banks in Siberia and collect iron ore, and they're just little chunks, right, that are kind of there with other stuff, other metals, rocks, whatever. So they collect it, they bring it back, and then they smelt it. They build these. I'll put some links after I upload the video, but you can find them on Instagram. You can find probably some of these videos on YouTube as well. They make this rock and clay oven, traditional smelting oven, that gets ridiculously hot, right, because it's completely covered up and it's kind of like this beehive shape. Yeah, so then they just get the stuff in there, get a lot of coal in there, get it super hot, leave it there for hours. It's a very long process that requires kind of constant supervision, keeping the temperature right. Then they do this whole thing where they go in on the bottom and break the wall a little bit and check on it and put it back and patch up the wall and leave it for a while more and do it a few times until you finally get a bowl. And you know, it's like this misshapen ball of ore. And at this point, you know, the other stuff gets melted out of there, and it gets the steel starts getting its right consistency. And so you can see it on the final product. It's got all kinds of this crazy Damascus sort of style pattern, right, without actually being layered. It's just, I guess there's some layering in there, but it's it's from the fact that this is I guess, smelted ore that becomes carbon steel in the process. So super traditional, really crazy. This guy, Semen, actually makes videos, sometimes goes live on Instagram when he's doing this. It's an hours-long process, so they'll go in and out, but kind of fun to watch. And then, yeah, just, you know, the usual kind of smithing, hammering process with these, and everything's finished by hand. All the materials are in his workshop. Leather, I'm guessing, from some friends over, you know, the same village or whatever. So yeah, so this one is my personal one that I got first to try out. I really, really like it, the shape of this. I got two from him. I sold one. It was a little too big for me. This one's got like kind of the perfect slender shape, and for my smaller hands, the weight, everything. Cuts crazy. So the steel is a little bit on the softer side, I think, but that's kind of how they like it because of the climate there. I've said this in other videos. The pattern is amazing. It looks so super cool. It's kind of hard to show. Probably see some pictures that I'll post on Instagram. Yeah, looks really cool. Looks kind of like a mix of Damascus and Sunmai blades or something like that. Because of all the patterning, it has this really cool feature where it's the way it reflects light depends on the lighting, obviously outside. So today's pretty sunny. You don't quite get that, but on a cloudy day, it kind of the way it reflects, you know, all the scattered light from the grayish clouds, you will actually see this thing. It appears kind of shining blue, kind of like an Elvish blade. It's really, really fun, right? So let's see. This is mine. Let's talk about the one I have from him that came in last. This one, he really went all out on the sheath. It's you know, kind of rough, thick leather, which it's actually really, really good. It's just, you know, it's got scratch marks and stuff because of just the way the way they do them. It's a working knife. But this one's got amazing stitching on it and really thick stitching. And you can see kind of, I love this when they do this, when they go around and protect the seam there. Also has a really nice flat loop here, and unlike a lot of others, I really like this one because the thickness, it's really bendy, it's really nice, springy, I don't know what else to call it. But yeah, sometimes they're really stiff and it's kind of, you know, they get stuck in certain positions and gotta play with them. But this one's really nice, fits perfectly, has just the right amount sticking out. There's a little string in there or whatever that's epoxied again to keep it all together. Little bead here made out of, I'm guessing it's, I don't know if it's reindeer horn or moose, probably moose, with some runes that they put on there. It's kind of hard to see again on the video, but yeah, that's it. What else? Okay, so that's the outside, so let's go to the actual knife. 10 minutes into the video. This one's got a more obvious pattern here, so hopefully you can see it better. So there you can see all the craziness of this handmade steel. Okay, so same basic pattern. This one's might be a little bit bigger. Yeah, slightly longer, a little, feels slightly beefier and a little heavier. He actually makes them really thick, especially this one. You can see, I think it's like 6mm thick spine. Oh, what else? The shape is basically the same. Yeah, it's got a tiny little bit of drop, I think, towards the front, towards the tip. Looks triangular, pretty conventional from the back. Pretty narrow, the fuller. The size, again, about 50-50 blade and handle, right? It's still super light, not quite as light as that one. I think the wood is a little heavier on this one, and I think the steel is actually thicker. Let me see, actually, I might as well check. It's a little thicker and a little longer, so that's kind of, both the handle and the blade are a tiny bit longer. So I like my slightly lighter one, but for most people, people with bigger hands, or if you want an even tougher tool, this would be perfect. So again, fully handmade steel from scratch, from ore to steel, all made by one guy. All the materials, everything, the fit and finish, I mean, it's not entirely perfect. There are a little bit of gaps there, but you know, that's kind of the style they go for. On this knife, he made the butt of the handle here kind of rounded off a little bit, not on the edges here. You can always sand it if you want to your liking, but it's got this little curve here, so put your finger on it. It's got a little bit of a shape. What else? The handle cross section, also kind of like that. I think that's his style. He makes them a little more rectangular, or whatever you want to call it, in shape, less of an egg. Okay, yeah, so the steel, they don't really provide measurements for it, so I don't know what the HRC on it is, whatever, but I've tested it out, cuts like crazy, really well. I think they're really good for keeping an edge. It's not, you know, it's kind of the way that they make it, because they have full control from the beginning. It's not something they buy in the store. They make they make the blades exactly the way they want, with the exact heat treat that they want. I think a lot of his customers are hunters, so this is a good hunting knife, but just all around in the wilderness, obviously. Like I said, thick enough and strong enough, heavy enough for anything, but at the same time still super light, really easy to carry. Attach it to your belt, attach it to your backpack. What else? Yeah, I think this is probably less prone to chipping than a lot of other steels. So yeah, and you know, it's called, I think technical definition of it is the smelted steel. You know, sometimes we call it wootz. That's a pretty loose definition on whatever you think wootz actually means. But yeah, it's that steel that's made from scratch by actually combining the things you need and getting rid of the things you don't, and that clay and brick oven that they make. The handle on this one, like you see, is dyed dark. It's got cool features of kind of you know, what you expect from a birch burl. It has these like dots here, little patterns that are cool, and then on the side it kind of looks more like a crosscut birch. So yeah, and then this side is more standard. So really cool. Again, like I said, I don't know exactly what these things represent, but he puts little patterns on the bolsters usually. Mine's got little triangle carvings. This one's got like 3 dots, 3 lines. Not sure what they're for, but there's some meaning to them. So yeah, I think that's about all I want to talk about really about these 2 knives. And yeah, like I said, this one actually, the darker handles he's been making are a lot more oiled and polished than this one. But you know, there are people who prefer this, and a lot of their customers, I think, like them sort of raw, because you know, when they hunt and they are field dressing deer or something like that, they prefer not to have smooth handles because of, you know, blood and all that. And yeah, a lot of them actually kind of like the more porous raw handles that will then absorb all the fat and all the blood and all that over time and kind of get its own character. But anyway, I'm not a hunter. I just know what they do with them. Size comparison, kind of the pattern comparison side by side. That's it. Let me try to get a few more angles in there. All right, so thanks for looking. Hope you got something out of this, and let me know if you have any questions. And like I said, these are going to be available in my Etsy store, Buy an Eye Blades US. So go check it out. And yeah, this is about as real as it gets.